tell us what you loved about making Elm Street 2. Tell us everything that you loved about making this film.
Oh, I love the whole thing. I mean, I really do. I mean, I don't ever want anybody confused about it. I love this movie. I love my part. I love Jesse. I think he's great. We were talking out in the thing. Like, if you guys see my book, if any of you got my book, it's like in the book, I'll give this away, that something happens. What really should have happened at the end of this movie is that Jesse should have killed Lisa. Like, you know, Freddie should have gutted her right there at the end. So then, like, I could be a bad boy. And that's the only two things that I did, because I said to Jack when we were shooting it, the pool scene, I thought that they should put me by the pool after the massacre is over, and that I would be standing by the pool covered in blood, so that I was the one that killed all the people. And I thought it would have answered a lot of questions for people, you know, as opposed to Freddie being there, it was me killing the people. And but I just loved doing it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. The transformation's great. That took 3.5 days to shoot that. And of course I had like 3 body casts, full body casts. And I mean, those literally, they put every hair in my, so it really looks, you know, it's you there. And I love the scene with Grady. I love that whole scene, the transformation scene into Robert and I. That fight, and I think it's really a great scene. I think it's one of the best scenes in Elm Street, actually. That kill is the best one, because it's so simple that you don't really believe it. You know what I mean? You could see how you would mistakenly kill your friend in the bedroom, and you know, if you're on crystal meth or something.
Well, one of the things, the film, like Elm Street 2 has 2 scenes that I absolutely love. That is one of them. When I think about Elm Street 2, it is that transformation, and when he kills Grady, I mean, I absolutely think that's the best. And I love the pool scene. You know, people complain that Freddy should have never been out in the real world, and like I mentioned to the audience before, I never understood how people would say, well, my problem with Elm Street 2 is it breaks away from the franchise. And my response is, this is the second film. There is no franchise yet.
Exactly. I do that to them a lot.
You know, it is, they're trying something different. You know, they may have went back and put in the dream.
Well, there weren't any rules.
There weren't.
Actually. And people say that because it really didn't get calibrated until the 3rd one. And like so many of them break those traditions. But that's what I meant about having me at the poolside covered in blood, so that it would like be like my dream.
Right.
You know, because like a lot of people say, like at the beginning of the film, you know, when I'm sitting on the front of the bus, in the back of the bus, and I look different, and people go, "Why do you look so gross in that scene?" And I'm like, "Well, it was a dream." And they're like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, I was dreaming. I mean, that's why I wake up screaming. So I'm the nerd on the bus." And like, but people never picked up all of those things were dreams inside of this movie. I don't know if they weren't clear or, you know.
It's not always clear in an Elm Street film. It doesn't matter which chapter you are. Sometimes you're not sure. But even the first Elm Street movie broke rules. It broke a lot of rules for the genre. So naturally for the second film, good or bad, it was brave enough to break rules as well, based off the first film. And I love that about the second movie. It's also the only film in the franchise that shares the same tone as the original.
Oh yeah.
It's not wall-to-wall jokes. It's not Freddy wisecracking. It's mean.
Yeah, he's mean spirit. Yeah, he's only like I think in this one he's like 11 minutes in the film, but you feel him through the whole thing. You know, it's like he's there all the time, but he's really only in the flesh 11 minutes. And yeah, a lot of that has to do with Jacques Hankin. Like the cinematographer of this movie is just beautiful, I think. And when they pulled it up into Blu-ray, I don't think it looks as good. I like it on the VHS tape. And the music, all those whales flowing in the background, all that kind of stuff. And it is dark, and his makeup is dark. Like Kevin Yeager did such a wonderful job on his, you know, made his career on Freddy's makeup. Really.
The Freddy's makeup in 2 is terrific. Yeah. It's much different.
And the acting is excellent, the entire.
It's one of the things another thing that I love about Freddy's Revenge is you got to see for the first time, even if for the brief instant, what Freddy looked like without makeup.
Right.
You know, in the bus scene at the very beginning. Was that shot early on? Was that later in the film?
That was shot about, it's about midway through, because we went out to the power plant. And then that was shot, all of that stuff was shot in Joshua Tree Desert. And unfortunately, Joshua Tree had caught on fire. And you know, like those Joshua trees only grow like a millimeter a year, so the trees are like hundreds of years old and they're like this tall, and they all burned down. So we got to shoot in there. We were the first person that went in and shoot. So it looked great for the film, but it was like total destruction for that forest. But yeah, so we shot that in like somewhere around, you know, some sort of close up neighborhood in the middle of nowhere.
I have to ask the dogs.
Oh yeah.
I have to ask about the dogs. What was up with that?
Well, the guy that there were a couple of prop people on this one, and the man that's responsible for the bird and the parakeet and the dogs and the scary rat mouse. And I love that when I'm like, oh my god, you know, it's like a little mouse, and so that's where the rumors got started. But yeah, no, like he was really old, right? And everything that he did had involved wireless, you know, like clear string, like he like had invented it. So everything was like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, do this. And but they drugged the dogs, and so the dogs, you know, which is totally illegal. But the dogs couldn't stand up, and then they had their mask on, and they were like passing. And then Kim was there, and like Kim's like an animal activist, and she was just not having any of it. So yeah, the dogs are dumb. But then they put them in that NECA box, which just kills me. You know, they put their nightmare on.
It's an action figure, you know, two action figure.
They could do the two dumb dogs, but they couldn't do me or Ken, which I thought was like really kind of crap.
How would you love to see an action figure of Mark? Yeah. With the Freddy coming out of the chest, the interchangeable arms, that would be great.
I think it would be great.
So we've talked about
Let's write it into that.
We've talked about a few things. So one thing I was waiting to get in front of an audience to mention is I'm a big fan of the franchise. I'm a big fan. I've seen all the films. Some, of course, are better than others. But one thing that stands out with you in the film is you have, out of the whole series, the best confrontation with Freddy, the best moment with a character with him and Freddy. And it is that moment, you've got the body, I've got the brain. It's such a great scene. Robert has had great scenes in other films. You know, part 4, I love the scene with Alice and the meatballs and the pizza. Right. But your scene with him is the one that stands out. I think it's the best in the series. You guys are really close. He's really just into it. You're terrified. It's he's just fucking with you. And I just think it's a great moment. I think it's one of the best moments in the whole series.
Those blades were polished so sharp that you actually could see, they shot the reflections of my eyes in the blade. That's how clear and crisp that was with the inkeys in them. And those blades are sharp. But like Robert talked about it in my documentary about how he's like doing Beauty and the Beast. Like he's in love with my beauty and he's, you know, messing with my hair and all this kind of stuff. And he played it like a love scene. I mean, he really did he asked me to put the blades in my mouth. And Danny, my makeup artist said, you know, stop production, and came over and said, don't do that because it'll look like you're blowing him. And then you'll have to live with that for the rest of your life. And so I said, no, Robert, I'm not going to do that. And he was like, okay, I'll rim you instead. You know, I mean, it's just like, but it's a beautiful scene.
It's a beautiful scene.
And I'll tell you what, it's like, without sounding like the most arrogant person in the world, it's good acting. You know, it's two people meeting who are both really good actors and playing off of each other. You know, and because people will say like a lot, it's funny because girls, like some girls would write online, oh, Jesse's such a wuss. You know, like I don't know, it was always girls who would do this because he screamed and he cried and stuff like that. But that's what real terror looks like. You know, so I was like playing the real terror, you know, of the whole situation. And I think it plays. I mean,
I've seen the manliest men see a rat or a mouse and scream louder than anyone I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, well I've gotten right with that because I have like the greatest straight fans. I mean, like I have like really big butch straight guys who are my fans, right? There were these 4 guys and they were in Afghanistan together. And they would do the Jesse dance every night before they went to bed to keep them safe. So they came to visit me at Crypticon in Kansas City and they did the dance for me, right? And so they're like this, you know, like they're those kind of straight guys. And then I reach over to touch their back, you know, like let's go and take the picture, and the back is spasming. You know, you can see all the muscles are popping out and they're sweating and everything. because they're just guys. Yeah, we're all the same. You know, it's like I used to do the thing on the glove too. I'd pop the glove on people and say "scream like a girl," and then I'd say like if I put this blade in your eye, you'd scream
Right.
like I did. You wouldn't like.
So let's give the audience a chance to ask some questions. Yes, you sir, right here with the glasses.
Yeah, I read somewhere that you had read for Glenn in original Nightmare on Elm Street. I didn't really hear too much about that in the documentary. I'm wondering if, of course Johnny Depp got that, I'm wondering if there was any discussion as far as maybe bringing you on for the next Nightmare. And my second question to that is, I'm wondering if there was any deleted scenes that we never got an opportunity to see, or anything that you remember that...
In Nightmare on Elm Street 2, no, because we were shooting on such a sharp budget. Because I mean, that movie was shot in, like that pool scene was shot, I think I said it in the documentary, but it was shot on July 4th, the pool scene. And the movie was in the theater on
November
October
1st.
31st, November 1st. Yeah, it started on October 31st in New York on Halloween night. So that was shot and edited and ready, theater ready in, what, 5 months?
Yeah.
So there was there wasn't an extra piece of film at all. Then there wasn't enough killing, like they rearranged it. It's like originally, there was no killing in the first half. Like I killed the coach maybe 20 minutes later. And Jack had somebody watch the movie and they just said, you have to kill somebody quicker than, because the audience is not gonna wait around for you to kill. We actually should have killed one more person. But I can't decide who it would have been, and as far as that, yeah, I screen tested to play Glenn. Heather and I screen tested, and Heather and Johnny screen tested together. And then Wes's daughter picked Johnny, because she liked him better. And that was his first job. So, and he was in a band, and he thought he might want to be an actor, and that's how his career started. So yeah, so it was like, and that was cool, you know what I mean? Because I really feel like Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was meant for me to do. I mean, like that was written for me, outside of all the homo and everything. I mean, it's just written. I am Jesse. So, and I really let you see myself as Jesse in that movie, and I'm really proud. I just think that's the one I was supposed to do, and I wouldn't have been very good as Glenn, I don't think. So, yeah. So no, and they never asked me back. People ask me about it a lot, like we're the only ones that didn't, and Lisa and Jesse are out there floating somewhere in the ozone. So maybe one of these days they'll show up and, they're 100 years old and, they're the oldest kids on Elm Street or something, I don't know.
Yes, you sir.
What was it like working with Clue and Hope?
Oh, like heaven. Like Hope Lang was so great, because I grew up with the Ghost and Mrs. Muir and all that kind of stuff. But she was also like an Academy Award nominated actress. I don't know if she won or not. And she had just done Blue Velvet. So she did Blue Velvet and then Nightmare on Elm Street. And she got paid, like big stars get paid differently than, because when you sign a contract for these things, they're usually what's called favored nations. So everybody gets paid the same. So everybody in the movie has to get paid the same. And then if you're a bigger star, then they give you prizes. Like I got a new car that nobody was supposed to know about. So that was stuck over on the side. And she got a full-length mink coat, a pair of diamond earrings, 2 first-class plane tickets around the world.
And a partridge on the partridge.
Yeah, no, I loved her. She was great. And Clue's 91, and he just saw Scream Queen, and he loved it. And we went to the Alamo Draft House, and he's in that stage of life where you don't really know if he's fucking with you or if he's really like talking to the angels, because he's very poetic. And so he watched Nightmare on Elm Street in Houston, this one, in Houston, and then we did a Q&A, and he just stopped the audience, and he was like, every second this boy is on screen is perfection. And like, there's not a second that he falls out of character. And it was like he had seen it for the first time. And then he called me Cocteau. He said it was Cocteau. So I was like, I love you, So he's a wonderful man. And of course, he's got an interest. We had something with him in Scream Queen, which was really interesting, but we didn't have a place to use it. And they're making a documentary about him now, so hopefully they'll use it. Clue was an American Indian, right? In real life, he's a Native American. And he played cowboys his whole life. And he always had to kill the Indians. And he felt really guilty about it his whole life. And it's interesting to hear him talk about that, because he wasn't supposed to let anybody know he was an Indian. And they gave him that name and all that kind of stuff. But it's one of the things he carries with him all the time now. And he talks about it, and with a good deal of shame, you know. He's a wonderful man. I mean, he's really a poet. He's a great actor, you know that. So, yeah, he's just fabulous. All of those kids were. Like, Robert Rustler was fantastic, you know, because he's not Grady. You know, Robert Rustler is not that character. He's like a very intelligent person, really nice. And when he's chewing with his mouth open and pushing his grandma down the stairs, he wrote that. It's just like the best, you know.
I loved Robert in Weird Science, and Thrashing.
Yeah, and Rad. All of them.
Rad.
Yeah.
You know.
I auditioned for all of those, and for some reason they didn't put me in them. I don't know why.
They didn't put you in Rad.
No, they should have.
That's bad.
I needed the. It's a bad movie. Anyway. So.
Yes, you sir, right here.
So, this is my first time seeing it as you guys look outside.
Oh, okay. Right. So we can go anywhere you want. If
Well,
it's
I'm
the first
getting,
time.
well, I wasn't here for the documentary. I came here kind of late,
Mhm.
but I did get a lot of vibes. Like, I think the film is a little bit ahead of its time in terms of its sexuality. Like, I'm getting vibes that Jesse is maybe bi or sexually curious.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, sure. I wrote a book about it. You can read it. It's great. I mean, no, I think like if you took this movie and you raised it to a higher elevation, like I wish David would have said to me, you know, I'm writing this as a secret gay movie, and I would have helped him out because I just played. And come back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean. I just played a trans person, and that's much more cutting edge than being gay. But I said, you know, it's like it's so funny because he could have done so many really great things. Like I could have slept in the closet, and my mom would be, "Oh, Jesse, come out of the closet," you know, and that would be funny and good. And then, but I do think like if you took the scene where we're in the cabana, you know, Lisa and Jesse are in the cabana, and the tongue comes out, right, which is him vomiting on her is basically what it is, right? So if you look at, there's a look in her eye when she looks at me, and if you just put it in your mind that she thought, oh, my boyfriend's gay, and then she says, I'm gonna help you get through this. Because I had a girlfriend kind of like her, and that's what she did. So I think that scene plays really beautifully, like they're friends, she's gonna help him no matter what. You know, no matter whether he loves her or he doesn't love her or anything. And that's what I wrote in the book. And it's really fun, and Kim and I have talked about it a lot because she was clueless. You know, she was 19 years old. But Robert Rustler played the whole thing as my boyfriend. I mean, he said it from the very beginning. And he would always like grab my ass or, you know, put his arm like way down here. But he also did some really cool things for me because I was very nervous. Because you know, I mean, like, I understand that I'm like to this, I'm like, I don't think I'm like Nelly or anything, but I'm like to this side of feminine, you know? I mean, I could be like a boy or a girl at that age, you know, with the beautiful hair and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't know how to play baseball, say. That was terrifying for me to play that baseball game. And those boys were professional baseball players. They're all stuntmen and professional. And the thing that people get off on is making fun of the star. So you put the star, because I got treated like a king, and they had to sit outdoors in the heat. So they would like, you know, maybe set you up to make fun of you. And Robert knew what was going on. He walked out to the baseball field. I later found out, and he said to the guy with the pitcher, he said, you know what, that ball better hit the bat every time you throw it. And it did. And I like would hit it out of the park, and it wasn't me. The guy was just throwing the ball right at the bat, so it would hit, and I would go. And because I was so afraid that everybody would know I didn't know how to play baseball. So, but it was pretty good. They hit me in the head. You get to see my ass, you know, so not so bad.
Who's that? Yes, sir.
What was it like having to, you know, wear that jock strap and being in tighty whities? What was that like?
It was, you know, it was really good. I was kind of pissed off because I wanted Calvin Klein underwear, which were brand new then, and like, and nobody had Calvin Klein underwear. But Calvin Klein underwear, for those of you who don't know, it's like a wonder bra for boys. It sort of pulls everything up and pushes it out. And you know, I'm a young boy, so I don't want them to see my, you know. So we did that, and it was, you know, it was fine, and the jockstrap and everything. I mean, I had done Equus. There's a play called Equus, and I had done that on Broadway. And I'm full on naked for 30 minutes in it. So I didn't really have problems with it. We shot the shower scene, and that was 3 days, and I was totally naked in there. And it was cold in that shower, and it was men and women. The crew was about 40 or 45 people. And so you just kind of get over it. You know, like once you've done it, you've done it. But it's funny though, because like I'm kind of a method actor. Somebody asked me that, and I love it now. I didn't even know I was doing it then. But like when I adjust myself in my pants, like I get so many videos that are delivered to me, like conventions, always from guys, and they're like, "Oh, it's broken," and I was like, "Oh yeah, where's it broken at?" And they say, "Oh, it's broken in that scene," because they would start it so many times. So
Anytime I pick a wedgie, I just say, hey, it's method.
exactly, yeah.
And everyone knows that Back to the Future was the only movie that could afford Calvin Klein.
Right.
Yeah, you couldn't have the Calvin Klein because, you know, the brand name. So I got the J.C. Penney's, underwear, which was perfect for Jesse because he wouldn't have those anyway.
Who's next? Yes, you, sir.
The scene in the gym, when you're running around the gym and the
Uh-huh.
camera's panning to the side, how many takes did it take before you guys got that right?
A lot. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It's my favorite shot.
That whole thing is like, you know, like when you get into like subtextual things and all that beauty of that, because like the coach is the one person that deserved to die, and that, you know, because if you really look at it clearly, he's a child molester, right? So he's picked me up in this bar and he's going to take me back and obviously he's going to rape me or something, and I'm a teenager, so he was like a bad dude, and I figured he'd done it more than once, so it wasn't his first time. But I make fun of it all the time because I'm like, because he's in the office and he's playing with the balls, you know, the basketballs, and I think you can't make this stuff up. But yeah, and they broke my ribs when they shoved me into the last time. The last time I got thrown into the chairs, it broke my ribs too. Yeah.
Did you have to stop production for a while to heal, or is it
No. You know, you never get to stop. It doesn't matter if your leg's cut off, you don't stop. Because it's too expensive. And especially if you're the star of the movie, there's no stopping for anything, ever. Yeah. Unless you like go really, really crazy and they put you in the hospital. Then they can collect the insurance.
Let's jump in right here.
Yeah, I had a question when you first walked out, but something you just said occurred to me even more. You said that you auditioned for the first film, the role that went to
Johnny Depp. Yeah.
Johnny Depp. If the roles had been reversed, if you got the role in the first movie
Mhm.
and he got
Yes.
and got the role in the second movie, the way he would taken that role,
Mm-hmm.
and do you think the kind of the similar situation might have happened to him?
I think, yeah, I do, because I think that anybody that played that role, the way that David was writing it, would have been up for the same thing that happened to me. It would have just happened differently. But they would never have cast Johnny as that part. I mean, the person that they had thought about first was what's his name? Back to the Future.
Michael J. Fox.
Michael J. Fox, yeah, was the first person that they were going to give this to.
He was a different actor early in his career, but not later on when he becomes so flamboyant with so many of his roles.
You mean Johnny or?
Johnny, yeah.
Yeah, well, Johnny wasn't an actor, so, that's the thing. I mean, he was in a rock and roll band when he did Elm Street for the first time. And then he did, even though, he'll own this, he learned to act doing 21 Jump Street. So, because that's where he really taught himself to act. So he was always really grateful for that TV series. Because if they would have thrown him right into the movies, he just didn't have the chops to do, it's a learned. You have to be in front of a camera pretty much a lot, or you have to be a savant because you have to ignore that the camera's there, but you have to know it's there all the time. It's a real zen, weird thing to do. So yeah, but he had a great career. He did good, but I think he went off the rails there at the end. He's gotten a little crazy, but I guess that's what happens when you get a big yacht and you can't pay for it. No, but he was wonderful, I think. River Phoenix probably was in the running for this too. And then, and I know, because I auditioned with all those boys. It sounds weird, but I auditioned on a regular basis with Brad Pitt, and Robert Downey Jr. and Tom Cruise at one point. I screen tested with him for Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders. And they had a blonde cast and a brunette cast, and they went with the brunette cast. But mine was Maxwell, Caulfield, and myself, and
Maxwell is from Grease 2.
yes.
Which I am a massive Grease 2 fan, and I'm not ashamed of it.
Well, he's amazing because Maxwell Caulfield was going to be the big star. going to be huge. And he did these 2 plays in New York where he took his clothes off, and he had the most beautiful body. So overnight, he was a star. And then they put him in that movie. And he was supported by gay people, right? Like all the producers and stuff that were
Was
around.
on Grease too, or?
Yeah. Oh, well, that was Alan Carr. I mean, he wore muumuus and, you know, had topless boys at his pool parties. But anyway, so he gave an interview. And he was like, he decided that he was a star now. And then he said something derogatory about gay people. And he was like, I don't need the gay people to do this for me. And it was like, bang, that was his last movie, you know. And he's married to Juliette Mills, is who he's married to, Nanny and the Professor. Yeah, so they've been married for like 40 years now.
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, yeah. But he slit his own throat. It was really sad because he's a wonderful actor. I mean, he's very, very talented boy. And really, of course, very handsome. Yeah. So, anybody else?
But, yes, you, sir.
Did your family, I know you said you moved and left your family, you went to New York. Did they see the movie?
Oh yeah, they saw everything. I mean, by the time that I did Nightmare on Elm Street, I had already done a number of movies. And like the one that got my dad the most was, well, the thing I did a television series movie with Chuck Connors, the guy that was the rifleman. And it was a Western, my dad loved that. I mean, he had my picture, you know, everywhere in that. And I had done Come Back to the Five and Dime Jimmy Dean, which Robert Altman was from Kansas City also, so they did a premiere there. And I get raped in that movie. And then I turned into Karen. And my dad just wept through that movie. They loved my films. They loved everything about me being an actor because they always thought I was going to be. I sang country and western music when I was a little kid, and I got offered a recording contract when I was 14. And my dad wouldn't let me take it because I was going to have to sing in bars, and I just resented him, you know, so much. But they always knew that I was going to do something like this. I mean, it was kind of obvious from the time I was a little boy. I had that like little sparkle, that little extra something, you know, that grown-ups liked, you know.
Before we close this out, what do you have planned next? Are you going to get back into acting? Do you have any other things that you're looking forward to doing?
Well, right now I'm on tour with Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street, and some of you saw that and you know. And I have 40 more cities to go with that, and we're in the selling process. And so like tomorrow I go to Mexico City for a big film festival, and then I go to Indiana. I'm like traveling the world, and then we go to Europe next month. And we start in Italy, and we're going to Berlin and Paris, and the whole nine yards. I just shot a movie called One Dead Dog, and it's the first time I played a grown-up in it, and I'm the uncle of 2 serial killers, and I clean up after them and keep them out of jail. It's really good. It's just a movie about codependency, but they kill people. And I pull them out of the trunk. I dress really nice, and it turns out in the end that I'm a pretty bad guy too. And then I speak. I do this kind of stuff a lot. And I just got a contract to write a book, which I was in Boston and I was speaking. And I always wanted, I don't know why, you know, like you get these weird little ideas in your mind. I thought, I want to speak at Harvard Divinity School. Now, I didn't even really sort of know that Harvard had a divinity school, but what they do is they invite normal people in to talk about their experiences, you know, like spiritual experiences or whatever you have. So I was like, I think that's what I'm going to do, because I heard somebody speak there. Well, when I was I just got invited to Emerson College, which is across the street from Harvard, to speak in the divinity school about the crossroads of spirituality and homosexuality, how like gay people, they were sort of robbed of their spirituality because they were kicked out of the church. And a lot of them are starting to take it back again and say, you know what, like, you don't have any ownership on this. I'm going to worship whoever I want and live the way that I want. And talking about that is really, I like those kind of things. I like politics. I like being an advocate to try to save, really honestly, young boys from what I went through. Because I don't really want anybody to have to go through it again. So if I can help like a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, just sit down and feel like, sometimes all you have to do is say to them, you know, they're trapped someplace and they're unhappy and they're going to kill themselves, you know, because I deal with that a lot online, that kind of stuff. And I say, you know, the only thing is, it's like if you can just wait, you know, because all of your problems are just problem of geography. Like as soon as you can get out of Podunk, Texas and move to Austin, your life is going to be just fine, you know. And sometimes with kids, it's just doing that, you know, holding their hand. And like their parents don't even know. You know, so many parents are clueless about what their children are going through. And I had kids, so I know. you know, than like when you got some blinders on there. But so that's what I want to do with my life. And if I do that making movies or writing books or whatever I do, or standing down at the community center, because I'll always be, because I'm very strong that you have to be safe with kids, and kids need mentors, we all need mentors. And it's a sacred honor that's given to you, and you better respect it when you do it. You know, have good boundaries with them, and, you know, be the grown-up, grow up. And so I've been experimenting with that, and I like it. But I like making the movies too. I didn't think I would like making movies as a grown-up. I thought, well, you have to be really cute, and you have to be 21 to really enjoy being famous and all that kind of stuff. I was wrong. Because grown-ups actually are more interesting than kids are. So like playing this part that I just played was great, because I got to be mean to them, and you know, I had all kinds of good stuff that I got to do. And I always got to be right, so.
One thing I want to mention is make sure to follow the Scream Queen doc on social media. Find out what cities it's touring with. If you have friends out there, if you have family out there, let them know it's coming to their city and tell them to go see it. Share it on social media. You know?
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You know, let
Yeah, we're
people
doing
know.
so great with that. It's like, we just got, we have like, we're on Rotten Tomatoes at 100%, and we have 50 reviews that are 100% reviews to back it up with, so we'll be at 100% for the next year or so. And we just got like IndieWire just gave us a review that's like your mommy wrote it for you. It's like we got an A-, and it's like literally the whole industry reads IndieWire. And the next morning we got offered 50 more film festivals. You know, so I mean, we're like sort of floating on wings with this thing. Because one night I'm playing a theater that's got 2,000 people in it, the next night it's 50 people. And I'm in Alabama one minute, and I'm in Los Angeles the next. It's really exciting. And the fact that we created this ourselves, because the three of us, Roman, Tyler, and I, we made this movie, we produced it, we paid for it. A lot of people gave money to our Kickstarter, and we got like $60,000, but that's really not very much money. And so we own it, and we get to see it all the way through, and we get to profit from it, you know, and it's pretty exciting. I never dreamed that I would be doing this. So, I mean, I never dreamed I would be in show business again in my life, but like I said in that documentary, I'm sitting on a dirt road, and somebody came and got me and said, come on back, we got a place for you. So
Tell your story.
yeah, and that's what I'm doing. So when the door opens, I just walk through it. So if you're making a movie, and even it's like a bad budget, call me, I'll do it. You know, I'll show up for you, I don't care. It's fun. Anybody, one more question, or are we done?
One last question? Yes.
You mentioned that in the documentary that when you were filming the movie, you went out to make a horror movie, and so a lot of the people on the film didn't pick up on the subtext that was in the writing. But this movie has like that most horror movies have. You have that cliche where actors in the movie do stupid things.
Right.
And did you ever question the writing?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
like,
why
think
is my
about it.
character doing this?
Yeah, but I came from New York, so like writers are like the king, right? So whatever they write down, I would pay attention to it, the punctuation, everything. If he wrote it with a comma, I performed it with a comma. Like all that stuff's in the movie, like bumping my ass on the drawers and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, like, you look through a window and you see a scared guy in the basement putting stuff into the furnace.
Right.
Why did you go down instead of calling the police?
Oh, well, that's because it's a horror movie. You know, I mean, like, it wouldn't be a horror movie if you didn't do that.
And it says it now, but, you know, back in '84, that genre was just coming out. I didn't know if that was mainstream.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, there's all kinds of rules if you really know horror. Probably half the people in this, like the first blonde that you see in the movie is going to die. That'll be the first blonde to die, so it's a girl. The first person to be killed is a girl.
You're expecting that going into it.
Yeah, because I know horror. I mean, I know what the genre is. And I also know that, like, that it would have been natural for Jesse to go downstairs and look in the basement if he just heard something. But then, like, when you come upstairs and he's at the stairways, that's when the movie goes into a different realm. And as an actor, like, you would just have to accept that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you accept it and you believe it. Because if I don't believe it, you're not going to believe it. And if I believe it and I'm on film and it's being filmed correctly, you'll go anywhere with me that I want you to go. It's like in the documentary, like for those of you who saw the documentary, I took you to a place that I intended to take you to. You know, when you go on that ride and you go down in the hall, I'm going to take you down there, but I'm going to bring you back up again. And it's the same thing with movies. You just have to believe what you're doing. You commit to it. You can see when actors don't commit, and they're lousy actors, and you know they're lousy actors, but you like kind of like them anyway. But when you see a real performance where it becomes seamless, because like when I was playing Jesse, like the big thing with me and why it was so hurtful for me, it was the first time that I took the opportunity. Well, there are different kinds of actors, right? There's one actor that he does something and you jump up and down and you scream and you say he's really fabulous, right? And there's another kind of actor that when he gets through, you just wilt in your seat and you can't get up. And I always wanted to be that second kind of actor. You know, I didn't want the applause. I wanted you to not be able to move when I was through. And so what I did in Nightmare on Elm Street was I dropped the veil. And so what you're really seeing on the screen when you're seeing Jesse is you're seeing Mark. And it was the first time that I ever did that. And so I really dropped the veil at the wrong time. But turned out it was the right time. But that's what real actors do, is they make you believe something, like that you're seeing something magical, and what you're really just seeing is the person. Because that's all they're doing, you know, it's letting you see inside of their eyes and their soul. So, yeah, so I could do anything. I mean, I could make anything real if you wanted me to. I mean, I could set the building on fire, I could sit down and have a cigarette, you know. You just have to be able to do that, you know, so. Some of it's stupid though. I mean, we didn't do anything like run into the, you know, like the commercial that's on television right now, like, hey, the car's running, you know, let's go over here. We didn't do that kind of stuff, but we were also more character driven, I think, than most. You know, so you really knew who these people were, so it was easier to do that. But thank you.
We want to thank you so much for coming down to South Florida and sharing your film with us. We're so glad you guys came out, stayed for both films.
No, it was really great. If anybody wants anything, come out to the thing real quick and I'll take a picture with you or whatever you want to do. Because then it's time to go to the hotel because I got to fly to Mexico City.
Mark Patton, everyone.